Hello, welcome back to the Arturia Jupiter-8 video series. Today we're dealing with the filters. We have two filters in the Jupiter, a high-pass filter and a voltage-controlled resonant low-pass filter. Lots of words, but basically we can call it the VCF. Let's deal with the high-pass filter first. So as we increase this slider, it's going to throw away low frequencies. It's going to thin the sound. Now this control is routed directly to the output. We don't have independent, like external control of it. It's always on. So if we set it to the minimum, it's not doing anything. For the purpose of this demonstration, I need to move this monstrous synth out the way a little bit. Put it over here so that we can see the spectrum analyzer behind. So here I've zoomed in on the note that's being played. This is C4. 523 Hertz, and I'm just going to turn the volume down because it's pretty nasty. So here it's a minus 34 dB. Now this is a 6 decibels per octave high pass filter. So if I increase this slider to about 1K, there or thereabouts, we should see a 6 decibel reduction in that volume. It'll be around about minus 40. There you go, minus 40. So every time we increase this slider, whatever setting we set it to, for every octave, we're going to throw away 6 decibels of sound. That's quite a gentle filter. So even at its maximum, if I zoom all the way out on my spectrum analyzer, so we see the whole shape, we don't have a dramatic effect on the sound. We never get to the point where we're throwing all the low frequencies away. It's quite a subtle effect. So that's what a 6 decibels per octave slope looks like. The voltage controlled filter, the low pass filter over here, doesn't have a 6 dB option. The two settings that are available for it are 12 and 24, and they're set with this toggle here. So 24 decibels per octave is the most intense slope. It's going to throw away the most frequencies. And the low pass filter operates in the opposite manner to a high pass filter. So when the cutoff, when it's set all the way to the top, it's not throwing any frequencies away. And as we drag that slider back, it's going to throw away more and more high frequencies. So this is a low pass, it's letting the low stuff through, which means it's cutting the high stuff away. There it is. And again, whatever that value is set to, if whatever note we're playing, it's attenuating 24 decibels per octave from that cutoff point. So if we were playing a note at 14K, which is like pretty close to the limit of human hearing anyway, at 28K we would have had a 24 decibel reduction. The bottom line is we get a slope. With a resonant low pass filter, we also have a resonance slider, and this is going to accentuate the frequencies around the cutoff point. So whatever our cutoff point is, it's currently at 2.3K. As I begin to increase resonance, we'll see a spike begin to appear. And if we hover over that spike, there's 2.3K, it's pretty close. And you can also hear a really high-pitched kind of sound in the background. That's an example of a thing called self-oscillation, where the filter itself actually starts generating its own sine tone at the cutoff frequency. At 12 dB, all of that gets more gentle. So now, as we reduce the cutoff, I'll just pull this resonance back a bit so it's not too offensive. The slope is gentler. There's 24 with your intense slope. There's 12 with your gentle slope. Again, it's the amount of volume that the filter is throwing away for every octave beyond the cutoff point. In addition to the static, cutoff and resonance sliders, we also have modulation options. First one is this modulation slider here, and we see env1, env2. That literally simply assigns one of these two envelopes to the filter. So if I turn that all the way up, so this if envelope is now having a maximal effect with no attack and decay to speak of, so we get straight into it, and with the sustain set to maximum, the envelope is going to apply the maximum modulation to the cutoff value. In other words, it's going to virtually push that cutoff slider all the way to the top. So without any envelope, that's our tone, manually controlled with our cutoff slider. And then when we introduce the envelope, we're going to introduce more and more additional increase. So all of these envelope values are positive, which means they're having a pushing effect on the cutoff value. Until somewhere around here, we got to the point where it wasn't having any more effect because it was already at maximum. If I invert the polarity of envelope 1 and now begin to apply the modulation, we're going to lose tone because all of these envelope settings are negative values, and they're basically pulling the cutoff slider down. So if I turn this up high enough, we're going to throw all the sound away in just the same way that we would if we turned the cutoff slider all the way down. So remember that the envelope only operates from 0 to +1 or from 0 to -1, and it's your polarity toggle switch that controls which of those two things you get. Also bear in mind that only envelope 1 has a polarity switch, so if you want to use that effect, then you'd need to assign envelope 1 to this slider. So what you'll often see with envelope shapes on filters is a use of the attack and decay, so that we get actually dynamically changes the cutoff value for every note that gets played pretty quickly. You know, you don't want to get too carried away with these values, and you want your sustain value, well, you can put it wherever you want, but for the purpose of this demonstration, we're going up to maximum and then coming back. So we want a non-maximum sustain value because we're using the decay phase as an active stage. And it works in legato mode as well. Let's turn the envelope slider off and turn the LFO on. And we saw this very briefly in the last episode, but we'll just spend a little bit longer on it now. So the LFO, which is hiding over here, so now every second we get to control how much of this modulation effect we apply, and at subtle levels you just get that gentle filter sweep, and obviously at more intense stuff you're starting to get into kind of crazy territory. So that's the amount by which it's moving, virtually moving the cutoff slider. It's doing this kind of thing according to the shape that we set with the LFO, because it's currently in sine mode. Set that to saw, we get a different effect. In sample and hold mode, we get random filter variations. So that's like you can hear it choosing a brand new cutoff point each time the LFO cycles. Finally, we have key follow, which basically centers around middle C, and if you've got key follow on, it's going to make your low notes duller and your high notes brighter. So let's hear that. So there's my low note with no key follow. There's it getting duller. Here's a high note. And there's it getting brighter. So it basically makes the cutoff point track across the keyboard. So for C3, which is the middle of the keyboard, key follow has no effect, and it begins to apply a gradually increasing linear effect from that point onwards. It basically does this to your filter cutoff. Everything that I've talked about today has just been on VCO1, but obviously all of that stuff applies to both VCOs. I'm just using VCO1 as a single example just to keep everything clean. That's all for this episode. In the next one, we'll talk about the various keyboard management options we've got available to us, and we'll have a look at some of the options that we've got for split keyboard modes. Thanks very much for watching. I hope to see you then.